Turkey's target, DW News, an attack on press freedom, and this time it's personal. I'm Brent Goff, and this is The Day. Tough questions for Turkey's government. DW's Michel Friedman sat down with a government minister to record a new edition of Conflict Zone.
Before the interview, the atmosphere was very good. During the interview, the atmosphere was changing. This is an unbelievable scandal.
DW's team forced to hand over the interview or else. Turkey's crackdown on the media hitting home tonight. Also on the show, yesterday, Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte was cursing Barack Obama. Today, he's trying to court the U.S. president's favor.
He regrets that his remarks to the press have caused much controversy.
But I have seen some of those colorful statements in the past. And so clearly he's a colorful guy.
Oh, welcome to the program, everyone. We begin the day with an attempt to gag the media. And by that, we mean an attack on our colleagues here at DW. Yesterday evening in the Turkish capital, Ankara, the host of DW's talk show, Conflict Zone, Michel Friedman, sat down with a member of the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's cabinet. Now, after the interview, Turkish authorities ordered our host, Michel Friedman, and the producers to hand over the footage. Our team was told it would not be allowed to leave the ministry until it did so. Well, tonight, DW is calling for the immediate release of that video material, and it's also considering legal action.
The producers of Deutsche Welle's program Conflict Zone can hardly believe what they're watching. Program host Michel Friedman describing how the latest edition of the show was confiscated by the Turkish government. On Monday, Friedman and his team traveled to Ankara to conduct an interview with the Turkish Minister of Youth and Sport. The issues up for discussion were sent to the ministry in advance. Friedman asked questions about the coup attempt in July and the subsequent crackdown, press freedom, and women's rights. But once the interview concluded, Turkish authorities ordered Friedman and his team to hand over the footage. The DW team was told it would not be allowed to leave the ministry until they complied.
Das ist natürlich ein echter Skandal, was die
What the Turkish government did was scandalous, and we cannot simply accept it because we've never experienced anything like it before.
Bisher noch nicht erlebt.
Conflict Zone is known for its confrontational style. Hard-hitting questions and aggressive follow-ups are hallmarks of the program. Certainly, it wasn't a soft interview. It was always going to be a tough interview covering a range of subjects. The Turkish side knew the format, they knew the subjects. The only way I can explain it is that this is a very nervous government that's drifting toward dictatorship. In response to DW's protests, the Turkish government said that Friedman did not stick to the agreed questions, and the report should therefore not be broadcast. But the Conflict Zone team says no specific questions were ever agreed to. DW has called for the immediate release of the confiscated material and is also considering legal action.
I want to pick up that story tonight. I'm joined by the host of Conflict Zone, Michel Friedman. He joins me now from Frankfurt. Good evening to you, Michel. First of all, I want to say, everyone's glad that you and the rest of the team made it back from Ankara safe and sound after what happened yesterday. Can you say in one sentence, Michel, why the Turkish authorities demanded that you hand over the video of the interview?
I think that the minister and the press officers were not very happy about the interview, which means we asked questions they didn't like. And the answers the minister gave us were not sufficient to say, okay, let's go, let's do it. And the reaction was unbelievable. After the show, we were asked to discuss with the minister and his officers if we agree that the show will not be broadcasted. And certainly we said no, never. We made the interview and we will broadcast this. And from that moment on, the atmosphere changed dramatically.
Okay, so let me get this right. They were asking you before you left the ministry to make a promise that you would not air the show, although they had already confiscated the interview. Is that correct?
They asked us not to broadcast the interview, and we said, never ever. We are a free press in Germany. We have free press, and the Deutsche Welle is certainly not dependent on what a Turkish minister is saying or not. And this was the moment where the press officer felt that this will not go in the direction he wants to have, and then he asked our technical team to give him the material. And this is till now the fact. The material is in the possession of the ministry in Ankara, and we don't have our material till now.
And Michel, I'm just wondering exactly, if you could, tell us exactly what was said to you. Were you told, you know, hand over the tape or else? I mean, were you threatened at all?
We were not asked, because the material was still in the cameras, and the technical team was just putting the cameras in the car. And what happened was, and we didn't understand what the press officer said, they spoke in Turkish. The fact is that the technical team was now handling out the material, and my colleague from Deutsche Welle Conflict Zone shouted very clearly, don't give the material to this guy. And after a few seconds, and a few seconds later, the press officer had our materials and went back into the building of the minister.
But the local team that you were working with, they're Turkish citizens. They're the ones who actually gave the tape over. Did you get the sense that they were afraid of what could happen to them? I mean, you were told you couldn't leave unless you did what the authorities demanded.
No, it was very clear that our Turkish friends were afraid, and from that point of view, and the experience how journalists or others are and were treated if they don't abide, we can understand that they didn't want to be heroes. But that's not the point. The point is that the Deutsche Welle next morning and Mr. Peter Limburg and others ask officially the ministry, give us back our material. And till 12 o'clock today, they didn't react on that. So what is really important is to say... Yes.
I was just going to say, Michel, it's just come across the ministry in Turkey now says it does not have that video material. So they're saying that they don't have it. So it's a mystery where it is and who owns it tonight.
I don't know where the material is today, but I know certainly that the material was handed to the press officer yesterday. I mean, do you imagine that if we would be in the possession of the material, we wouldn't try to broadcast it tomorrow? No, this is not correct. The material was handed to the press officer yesterday, and that's why we immediately react, and also tomorrow, in this morning, and we ask, give us back our material. It's a press material. And it's very interesting that it took more or less 8 hours today that this new version of our Turkish interviewed minister officials is saying now we don't know where the material is. We know one thing for sure. The material is not there where it has to be, in Berlin, and we are not capable to broadcast our material tomorrow.
That is true. It'll be interesting to see how this story develops, because it does not sound like it is over at all. All right, Michel Friedman, the host of our very own Conflict Zone. Michel, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Well, as we have seen up close and personal, the situation for journalists in Turkey is precarious. We want to pull in now Nina Ognaniova from the Committee to Protect Journalists in New York. Nina, it's good to see you again. What's your take on what our team at Conflict Zone experienced today or yesterday?
Good to be with you again. Well, what happened to the Deutsche Welle crew in Ankara may be shocking to audiences in Germany, and within the European context, indeed is a very shocking development. But for Turkey, especially Turkey nowadays, it's just business as usual. Turkey has been incredibly paranoid about controlling the narrative that comes out of Turkey. It has been controlling of its own media, of its own message, and what has been a crackdown on the media for months has now gone into overdrive.
Yeah, and this was happening, wasn't it, Nina? This was happening before the attempted coup, right? I mean, we had reached levels that were very disturbing even before July. I think your organization published a report saying that Turkey has surpassed China when it comes to the number of journalists imprisoned or detained.
Well, in the aftermath of the coup attempt itself, we now have documented more than 100 detentions of journalists. This is way more than China has ever detained, or Iran, for that matter, or any of the possible usual suspects that we have in terms of press freedom offenders. The way and the rate that this crackdown is going, Turkey has already surpassed any other country as the leading jailer of journalists for the press.
All right, Nina Ognaniova with the Committee to Protect Journalists joining us from New York. As always, Nina, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.